Hi, Redesert Boy here. Hey, I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about something concerning me that I'm running into myself that I know is probably happening to other people, which is, what if you're trying to find a concealed carry weapon, you're trying to find one that's more smaller size, and you can't find one? You know, what can you do about that? So, first of all, let me just say that if you want to do concealed carry, make sure that you're compliant with all your federal, state, and local firearms, laws, ordinances, policies, regulations, rules, any training that you have to have. Make sure you have all your permits and all your licenses, and that goes, for following the rules, even, any kind of carry you're doing, but especially for all your concealed carry stuff. Make sure you're fully compliant with all those things. So just kind of get that out of the way to make sure everybody understands that. You want to make sure you do that. But going on to, what do you do when you can't find, for example, this is a very popular sized firearm. Of course, Smith & Wesson makes the J-frames. This happens to be a Ruger LCR. It's 17 ounces. It's fairly compact. As we can see, it's unloaded. What happens when you can't find this, Or what happens when you say, I really not into revolvers, but I want a semi-auto. There's no magazine in here. We can see that it's unloaded. This happens to be a SIG P938, which also just happens to be 17 ounces, and they're fairly small and they're fairly concealable. And so what do? Now, in my case, I do at times carry full-size firearms, and of course, I'm sure many people would probably say, well, a Glock 19 is a good in-between that. It's a more compact, almost a compact size, and yet it has full-size capability, a nice sight radius and all that, not a bad weight. A lot of people like striker-fired weapons, but some people like revolvers. It makes it easy, Some people like small semi-autos, but I haven't been able to find things like that. Hellcat, P365, Bursa Thunders, or even the small revolvers, even like Taurus 85s, or say a Smith & Wesson 638 or 640 or any of those. So what do? Well, let's talk about that a minute. First of all, carrying a full-size firearm is not for everybody. You have to really do your own research, talk to the people that are experts, get the proper input on it. And one of the things that's always key in any kind of carry is finding the right holster. Don't minimize that. If you look at some other videos, not just by me, by others, they'll tell you finding a correct holster is really a key to carry, because you want to make sure it's secure, you want to make sure it's comfortable, because if it isn't, you're not going to want to carry it, and you're going to want to make sure that you're confident in that the weapon is good and secure when you're carrying it. So for me, I have certain holsters I use. But first of all, let's take a look at firearms you might consider. Now, this is a full-size 1911. You can see it's empty. The magazine's out of it. The magazine happens to be laying right here. This is a Springfield 1911. Pretty large. It's over 8 inches long. It's about 5.5 inches high. It's probably about an inch and a quarter wide, something like that. I can't remember exactly. But it's about 39 to 40 ounces. That's without a magazine in it, with ammunition in it. So the thing is, a lot of times people with full-size handguns, especially in the wintertime, they like to carry maybe an outside the waistband holster. The trouble is with an outside the waistband holsters with these guns that are longer, oftentimes they'll do that with a smaller gun, that becomes more of an issue. You have to have clothes that are correct. You have to make sure that if you reach up to get something, it doesn't expose your firearm. There's all kinds of things you have to think about. So for me, I always go more with inside the waistband holsters. For many people, that's not as comfortable, but it's something you have to explore for yourself. Remember, I'm sharing with you, I'm just a hobbyist and enthusiast. I'm sharing with you, opinions about what has worked for me. So these were some things that I came up with that worked for me. So what's another one that's out there? Well, this is also all metal. It's alloy and steel. This is a P226 we can see it's empty. No magazine in here. Magazine's laying here empty. P226 Mark 25, and it's also about 34 ounces unloaded, right? It's got a nice sight radius. It's about 6 inches probably. It's got a 4.4 inch barrel. This other one had a 5 inch barrel. You know, it's also about 5.5 inches tall, you know, in that area. It's a pretty large gun. What are some of the, you know, it's has a decocker, right? On it, so it's a double action, single action. I forgot to mention the 1911 is a single action only. So sometimes that's more of a learning curve for people, especially having to remember that you have a safety that you have to take care of with the firearm, right? So just something to think about. But this one here, this is really a full-size gun. It's used by the military. Very hardy gun. Both of these are very robust guns. Lastly, here's another one. It's really considered a full size. Once again, it's unloaded. There's no magazine in it. It's laying over here. This is also a Sig Sauer. It's called an SP2022. Now it has a polymer frame, right, with, you know, the inserts in it for the key parts of the firearm, along with the steel slide. It's kind of like a Ruger LCR. It has polymer and it has the metal parts of the gun, the barrel and the cylinder in the case of the LCR. In this case, it's a slide and a barrel and all the important parts of it. This one is a 3.9 inch barrel and it's about 29 ounces. So this one's a full 10 ounces lighter than this one. These two that I'm showing you here are both 9mm. This one is a 45 ACP. That's a whole other consideration, but they do make a lot of 1911 style firearms today that are in 9mm. Now, one of the things to think about here with these is you know, can I carry something like that? And so let's look at what we carry them with. Both of these happen to be Galco. I also use crossbreed holsters. I like to use the double clip ones because they kind of conform to your body. They kind of keep the firearm pulled in. I like having it with this kind of sweat guard portion there for the firearm. And you have to find, it takes a little bit if you do go that way to find, you know, where you like to wear it, where it best fits and everything. Same thing here. Let's see what this looks like in it. We've already checked it unloaded. You can see how the firearm sits in there, right? So just to give you an idea of the firearm, let's make sure we got this pointed in the safe direction. Here is the Sig Sauer P226 Mark 25. Once again, it fits in there, sits in the holster. Your belt runs along here. One thing that's really important in all carry is a belt. I'm in the process, I'm going to order a core essentials for myself. I haven't done that in the past, but especially if you're carrying full-size firearms, that's critical to making sure that you have the right support for your firearm. Okay, so put these this way a little more. And then this is, of course, the SP2022. Now, there's other guns that are similar sizes to these. There's FN 509s. There's, you know, Glock 17s. There's, you know, all kinds of guns out there on the market that a lot of people are looking at. They're more full size like this. This happens to be a We the People inside the waistband holster. It's a single clip. I had a hard time finding a holster for this particular gun, and that's one thing you might want to check and see is how available a holster is for one. But I was able to get this from We the People. It was my first single clip style gun, and it works pretty well. So what would be some of the advantages, I guess, depending on how you look at it? I generally carry as a defensive option. I've been carrying my LCR and my P938, and I also have a Springfield Armory XDE in 45. I generally carry them with a lower round count because I think of it as a defensive weapon. But there are times when you're doing things, when you're going certain places, or maybe you're traveling or something like that, where you might want to have more capacity. When I bought these were bought in California. The magazines I had with them were 10 rounds. That was what you could have. Some places today, that's, you have to follow what your state laws are, or what your local laws are. These guns generally have 8-round magazines, unless they're 9 millimeter, or they're other type of ones that look similar, that have higher capacity magazines. But I guess all I'm pointing out to you is, yes, you can go with a full-size firearm. Like I said, this one here is kind of an in-between model. It's probably more in the weight range of something like a Glock 19. I'm not fully familiar with their weight, but I'm thinking that they're probably about the same weight. It could be a little bit lighter. Thing is, right now you may not be able to find the Glock, so I was just trying to show you some other options. So, what about the prices on these? And by the way, usually when I carry, I like to use these, I believe these are called Gideon ammunition carriers. These happen to be my crossbreed. This one happens to be for double stack, and you can put your magazine in there in the pocket. Other people have other things they like to use. There's Neo Mag and different things out there for magazines. One of the things sometimes it's good too is sometimes, especially it seems to be with full-size ones, sometimes you'll get a special deal. When I got the Springfield, it came with a holster and a mag carrier, and wasn't the greatest holster, but it was a holster. Same thing with this SP-22, it came with a holster. These two guns happen to have night sights on them already. Something nice that you might want to have. This one does not. So how does that affect the price? Well, the MSRP on this one is $872. Now, whether you can find one or not, that's the question with some 1911s. You might have to look at other manufacturers. There's a lot of them out there. There's some that are lower priced, manufacturers, some like Rock Island Armory, and if you can find it. Otherwise, you're going to be buying probably Springfield Armory, or they're going to be really expensive, more like custom guns. Sig Sauer, this is one of the more moderate price to higher price Sig Sauers. It's in the $1,000 plus range, because now there's a Legion series, and those are generally $1,200 or $1,400 in this similar model. This one here is usually in about the $400 to $700 range. Now, I don't know what you'd find it on the street price right now, but it's probably on the higher end of that, especially if it had night sights. So I guess all I'm trying to say is, once again, you want to follow all your laws and rules and everything, but there are options out there. I know when I've been calling around to gun stores, all I've been hearing is, we don't have any of those size weapons. This is what we got. And what they have are mostly full size or compact size. Very little of the mini, what we call micro compacts, like the P938, or the, I guess you'd call them, I forget what, like mini compacts and micro compacts. You got all these different names now, but there's very few that are, out there that I have found so far. So if you're frustrated with that, yeah, you could carry a more full-size revolver, but remember, you're going to run into the same thing. You're going to have to remember you're going to need a holster that's good and supportive. You're going to have more weight. Most of the L-frame Smith & Wessons and Rugers that you find that are in their larger frames, they're going to be more in the 35 to 40 ounce range. You're going to be more like a gun like this. They're generally all metal. So those are things you have to think about. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm just trying to let you know that there are ways to carry things concealed that are full size. You have to make the assessment. This is what works for me, but you need to make the assessment on what might work for you. And then you also need to be sure that they're comfortable with whatever caliber it is. I think that's why a lot of people lately have gone with 38s and things like that, because they're entry level, and you need to always make sure you got training and you understand all the safety aspects of any firearm that you have. get proper training and instruction. So with that, as Desert Boy always says, I hope you like this video, but more importantly, I want you to know, be safe out there, whatever you're doing. And if you do like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.